Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome inside the Fan Cave. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. I'm Bob Pompeani. Located here, Chris Mueller is located at 93.7 The Fan, part of the PM team. He's here as well. You can join us by calling 412-575-2600. Hit us up on Twitter at KDPump, at Chris Mueller PGH. And Chris, exciting news. One of the best pitchers in the game may be coming to Pittsburgh this weekend. Shota Imanaga from the Chicago Cubs, who's one of the best lefties. I want to see if you're paying attention. I like that guy, by the way. But it's Paul Skeens making headlines tonight because he's going to be here on Saturday. We kicked this around over the last couple of weeks. But, by the way, Imanaga, I hope he does pitch on Sunday. I think he's scheduled. He's 5-0, this lefty from Japan. He's been unbelievable. But what a pitching 3 games. You got Jones Friday, now Skeens. Maybe in Imanaga on Sunday. What do you think about Paul Skeens and the fact that he's coming up here now? I think it makes sense.
I think it shows that the Pirates, like probably any team, were going to keep him down before that extra year of service time would have kicked in, which is something that eliminated itself from contention or possibility in mid-April. Obviously, they're not doing that, and they didn't do that with Jared Jones, so no 2 cases are identical. But it's clear to me that they just had a plan. I think there were fans nervous they were going to keep this guy down till mid-June for Super 2, but they had a plan. They knew he was very close to ready. They're very careful about this, and I'm excited because this is not exaggeration, what I'm about to say. It's going to sound like it, and it's going to be a little bit of a projection. But if Paul Skeens, Bob, is anything like what people expect him to be around baseball in Pittsburgh, Skeens himself, and you get continued work like you've seen so far from Jared Jones, this franchise is suddenly going to have one of the absolute best 1-2 rotational punches in all of Major League Baseball. That is not an exaggeration, given how dominant Jones has been and how dominant we kind of all believe Skeens can be, given what he's capable of as far as stuff and velocity.
And they're going to need to be really good because their offense still cannot hit very well at all. And again, they struggled today. But let's bring in our GMC Sierra tweet of the night. It is about Paul Skeens because everyone's talking about it. And this is the tweet that went out with MLB. And it's a lot of expectation, a lot of hype. But you're right. If Jones continues, and he's been just so confident and dominant out there, I don't know how Skeens can do better than that, to be honest. But if Skeens is anywhere near what we expect, and then Keller falls to a 3, you could put Perez as a 4, and if Priester ever gets it together, but for now it may be Falter. Anyway, the point is they're going to have pretty good starting pitching, which means the emphasis is now on hitting. And that's the question, Chris. Again, we saw basically one swing of the bat today that was the difference, and that was a 3-run double by Cruz. Other than that, and other than the grand slam that we saw by Edward Olivares the other day, that's about all they got in this entire series, and they lost 2 or 3 to a bad team.
I have a couple of sobering stats. Dan Zangrilli does Pirates pre and post, of course, here on the Fan, says the following. The Pirates have only scored a run in 6 of their last 66 innings. So 60 of 66 innings have been scoreless. That isn't acceptable. And then entering today's game, so not including what they did against the Angels, Bob, this team, dating back to April 15th, 21-game stretch, a 543 team OPS. That means that as a team, they were basically Austin Hedges for his career. You have to go back to find a 21-game stretch within one season in Pirates history, Bob. You have to go back to 1917 to find a stretch where a Pirates team was that bad collectively on offense via the OPS stat. That is astounding that they are this bad right now.
It really is. And, of course, Henry Davis has been relegated to AAA, and hopefully he'll get his swing together because, quite frankly, they need it regardless of what position he plays, if at all, or it could be DH because they're not getting any production there as well either. A lot going on. Real quick, I want to get your take on what was a war tonight in Florida, Sunrise. It was the Panthers and the Bruins, and this was a game that Florida came back and pushed back. They drove Jeremy Swayman out of the game, and then they got nasty and spicy, and you saw guys like Pasternak. Be careful what you wish for. He was on the bench talking to Matthew Tkachuk, who came on and hit him straight in the face and knocked him back. It was a really old-school hockey kind of game, which I love to see, actually. I love the physicality. I miss it, not seeing it here now.
I saw the highlights and kind of clips, and I was flipping back and forth, Bob, to catch that game, but with the score being so lopsided, I'd be lying if I said I took it all in. You know what I was watching?
Knicks.
Rick Carlisle biff it again by putting T.J. McConnell on the bench when he was the only guy who could at least make Jalen Brunson work for baskets in the fourth quarter. Get some guts, Rick. TJ looks like your best player at times. Play the man down the stretch. Stop adhering to your normal rotational rules. Come on, man. What are you doing?
That's exactly right. McConnell had 11 assists at last I saw, and he's very good at knowing when to do it offensively as well and opening up guys like Tyrese Halliburton. We're due for a break. We'll take it, come back with more. It's 412-575-2600. We're live here at KDKA Plus and also on 93.7 The Fan. If you're driving around, give us a call right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. All right, welcome back. We continue right here with the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Bob Pompeani and Chris Mueller with you. Another game going on tonight would be Oilers and Canucks, first game of that series, and that has a lot of Pittsburgh written all over it. But the Oilers have already struck first on the power play. Chris, power play, how important, and the Penguins had none of it. They were one of the worst in the league at 15.3. You've seen the New York Rangers and last night Trocheck and what he meant to their power play and overall to their team. But this Zach Hyman and Draisaitl and McDavid, this is a power play. You do not want to give them a chance. 2 minutes into the game, Vancouver did, and they paid the price.
Yeah, that's what a power play loaded with big-time talent is supposed to look like. And by the way, you mentioned Trocheck. Tyler Kennedy on with us today just straight up told people out loud what a lot of people had speculated, that Trocheck would have signed the exact deal Evgeny Malkin signed, was ready to come here and play, and the Penguins' loyalty to their core pieces and wanting to keep that core together and that whole concept of loyalty means that a player who at this point is better than Evgeny Malkin, respect to Malkin, he's obviously a better player, better career than Trocheck, but Trocheck's better and younger right now. That guy was ready to come here, and the Penguins just said, nope, we're keeping the big three together.
Yeah, exactly, and he does different things. The thing I like about Vinny Trocheck, he gets his nose in there. He wants to be a number 2 center. He couldn't be that if Malkin had signed, so that was the writing on the wall for him. The Penguins need more players. Bunting was one of those kind of guys who came in and gave him a different look. I know they lost Gensel, but I like Michael Bunting. They need to go out in free agency if, whatever money they have available, and bring in guys like, for example, Domi in Toronto is a free agent. People like that. I think DeBrusk is one in Boston. Just to change the edge factor. It can't all be the same, and they're getting very little out of their bottom six as well. So they need to go out and do that.
Yeah, it's a very stale recipe, and you either need to bring in guys. Domi's an interesting one that you mentioned, who just automatically, by their mere presence, spice things up. Or, and I'll go back to this, they need youth. How many guys on that roster are under 25 years old? 3 of them, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the number. 3 guys they ended the season with are under 25 years old. They need a youth injection and just some different faces from the outside, but when you commit so much financially to a core group of players, and then you add an older guy like Carlson to that mix, who's also extremely expensive. Bob, I think you know this as well as I do. You're going to limit your options as to how you can construct a roster of depth pieces and role players around those guys.
Yeah, no question about it. And they need to change. They got to figure it out, knowing that everybody is still back. And that's what they wanted. That's what they got. Now they have to figure it out beyond that. Let's go to the lines. Got a lot of people want to talk here. Chris, we'll begin with Jim in Peters Township. Hello, Jim. How are you?
Oh, good. The way I look at it, when you had Keller along with Skeens and Davis, you're going to have 3 of the best top 3 in baseball. I think I saw a statistic the other day that going into yesterday's game, they were 3rd in pitching. Now, their hitting has been horrible, obviously. It's going to get, it can't get any worse. And they have fired the hitting coach.
Be careful what you wish for, Jim. It can always get worse.
Well, I guess
they could go from Austin Hedges' career numbers to just Austin Hedges with the Pirates, which would, in fact, be technically a step down.
Well, I guess you got a point, but they're taking so many third strikes. It's pathetic.
Well, today they struck out 5 of their last 6 at-bats. That's how the game ended. And listen, they did that the other day, too, where I think the final 6, and that was when out in Oakland when Mason Miller was on the mound. But, you got to put the ball in play at some point, too. You have a better chance of doing that as opposed to striking out. You never know what you're going to force, maybe an error, whatever.
Bob, their strategy, and Jim, mentioned this too a little bit, their strategy in the hands of skilled, good hitters can be both enraging to the other team and devastating. The Boston Red Sox and the Yankees of like the early 2000s would do this, especially the Red Sox. I feel like they would just foul pitches off. They would make guys work and work and work and work. But here was the problem, or the difference. Those guys were stone cold killers, even if they were hitting with 2 strikes. They'd work these guys, they'd tire these guys, and then if the guy would leave a pitch over the plate, they'd hammer it. The Pirates are taking all these pitches, are trying to extend at bats, and then when the going gets tough and a pitcher executes a pitch, the Pirates just freeze up. I mean, it's devastating if you have good hitters. If you have bad hitters trying to do it, then it can make you an incredibly easy lineup to go through, which is what the Pirates are right now.
Yeah, and they have guys in the minors who are at least playing better, and they should probably get an opportunity up here. We'll see if that happens. They have a day off tomorrow, and then the Cubs come to town on Friday. Chuck in Uniontown joins us right now. Hello, Chuck.
Yeah, thanks. Hope everybody in Beaver County is okay. But anyhow, Skeeton's coming up, and even though he's a pitcher, whether this can be a fortune flipper for the Pirates, whether it can lift the entire team, but I'll tell you this, the hitting is got to come alive now, because this is 10 games against Central Division, 7 of them are on the road. And you know daggone well the Brewers and Cubs are going to score runs every place, particularly in their home ballpark. So, I would say at least 5-5 is necessary in these 10 games because,
Yep.
I mean, this
Chuck,
is really make or break 'em.
Chuck, let me say this though about the hitting, and Chris, to the point of no scoring. I feel bad for Quinn Priester. He's not been good.
Hasn't
but
had a single run.
0 runs. In 4 outings, they haven't scored 1 run. How do you feel if you're that pitcher, and no matter what you do, you're never going to be in a position? He had scoreless in Oakland and got nothing. They got to run late.
Yeah, I mean, he's at least shown that he can go deeper into a game and pitch really well, and that's to his credit. He's still been pretty bad otherwise, I would say. But yeah, I think if you're a guy like him that's struggling with your confidence to begin with and maybe try to be too perfect, well, you're just going to exacerbate that tendency if you're not getting any run support. And Chuck said 5-5. Yeah, if you want to even stay within shouting distance, you better go 5-5. But here's the problem. What they just got through at 3-6 was supposed to be the easy part of their schedule, like a little soft 9-game stretch, Bob. And now we're looking at this team staring down the barrel of an extraordinarily difficult run on the schedule. I'll lay it out really clearly here, as best I can. The teams they have coming up could easily bury them. Skeens, Jones, Keller, and frankly Perez have to be phenomenal, almost as good as or better than they have been to this point, to even give them a fighting chance in some of these games. And then you've got to get offense. Why is Rowdy Tellez still here? Why isn't Jake Lamb up? I don't think Nick Gonzalez is any savior, but come on. He should probably be on the major league club right now.
Yeah, no question. And think about Jared Jones. He's been so good that it would be hard for me to imagine him continuing on that level. That's almost impossible to do. They're going to be, you would think, a couple of ups and downs along the way, some downs here, and he's going to have to navigate through that. But, man, so far the guy's very confident, and location has been superb. Speaking of him, let's go to Curtin Manor. Hey, Kirk, how are you?
172 people in British Columbia have died due to unregulated drugs.
Kurt?
15% of those
Just asking what you guys think. I mean, how many World Series do you think Jared Jones and/or Paul Skeens will win, and who will they be playing for by then?
I mean, I would tell you to enjoy the moment. To start, that's people talk about that all the time. The one thing the Pirates have done, they did not wait until he got Super 2 eligible, which they could have done. They decided to do it now, and that's the right call. Yeah, they've met the criteria for another year, but they could have waited longer. Before you start thinking about that, how about looking at what they have and kind of enjoying the moment? Because this is like Strasburg, and if Jared Jones continues this, you're going to have like 2 of them, Chris. So I think it should be fun times, at least, for now. Let's see what happens after that.
I'm excited, but I understand why Pirates fans are scarred and cynical and everything else. But yes, I would choose to be excited that you get to watch 2 electric arms right at the start of their careers. But to answer Kirk's question there, they're both going to win 10 World Series apiece for an expansion franchise that doesn't yet exist in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay. Scotty Miller making headlines today. The Steelers signed him. That when I saw that, I thought, okay, doesn't he do what a lot of those other guys on that same wide receiving roster do? And listen, I know he has Arthur Smith ties, and he had one good year really with Tampa Bay, and that's when Brady hit him up. I don't know what kind of numbers he had, but I remember he was good for them. What's your take on that? And they still need another outside wide receiver, in my view.
They don't. Yeah, he's played out wide, but I don't think he's the answer. There's one of two things that they're going to seemingly do here, Bob. They're either going to stack multiple 5'9" to maybe 6 foot tall guys up on each other's shoulders, put a trench coat on them, and call him a Z receiver opposite Pickens, or maybe they're going to put them all together like Voltron and come up with some sort of amalgamation of players there that can do that job. The real truth here is I think they're going to just try to get by with the number 2 receiver. I think they're going to hope that Roman Wilson is somebody that's an impact player from the slot. I personally don't think that's a good plan. Van Jefferson would be my odds-on favorite to actually be the starting number 2 receiver. I have very little reason to believe, looking at his statistics, that he will be good enough there. I hope that this isn't just the Steelers settling and saying this is good enough for us and that they are still actively trying to remedy the situation.
Gary, Pete, we'll try to get you guys on next. When we come back, you're watching and listening to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call right here on KDKA Plus and 93.7 The Fan. It was a crazy night of weather last night. Ken Rice is over in the Anchor studio, and he's going to tell you what's coming up tonight at 11, Ken.
Hey, Bob, we're going to be showing you the impact of those 4 tornadoes that touched down in our region last night, and it's not over yet. First Alert meteorologist Ray Patlin now tracking more storms in the days ahead. That's all coming up in just a few minutes. See you at 11, Bob.
All right, Ken, thanks very much. Squeeze in Pete in Bethel Park. Go ahead, Pete.
Hey, good evening, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Considering the Pirates have no future prospects at first base, really haven't had one since Josh Bell, why don't we hear even a whisper of a talk of turning Henry Davis into your first baseman for the next 10 years?
Well, you might eventually if that's the case. I mean, outfield was sort of a disaster defensively. Chris, I'm of the belief that no matter where he plays, if he hits, I don't care where that is. Just get him in the lineup. He was drafted number 1 so that he can hit. He better hit.
He was drafted 1-1 because he could hit, but also they actually thought, I think at the time, he could play catcher. If you don't play him at catcher, and he's not going to be their catcher of the future, period, he better hit a ton at whatever corner infield position, I guess it would be first base, or outfield position he plays. But I'm skeptical that that's ever going to happen. I do not like the trajectory, Bob, that his career is on early on here.
All right, Chris, we'll see you again tomorrow night. Appreciate it. That's going to do it for us. We thank all of you out there who got through, and if you didn't, try again tomorrow night as we continue to talk about all the things going on in Pittsburgh sports right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Have a good night. We'll see you at 11 o'clock on KDKA News.